going through. Everything from whether it be increase in revenue, I mean, cigarette and alcohol has been discussed as well as go pay for the Medicaid cost. But most of that difference is going to be cuts to government. I mean, you can't make up 2.4 billion by taxing revenue. You've got to make cuts to government. If you look on the back side, there's a pie chart on the back that shows where the dollars and when that's based off the House passed budget. Up to 22% of the budget is now Medicaid. Just 2 years ago, that number was 18%. That's growing at an alarming rate, taking up a lot of the budget. So we've got to get Medicaid costs under control in the long run. So we'll be negotiating all next week. Hopefully, the goal is to get out by next Friday, but we 29 as when we're set to adjourn. And then the big bill that we passed out of the House last week, a little over a week ago, was Senate Bill 1, and some of the provisions. There's the general obligation bond case that puts restrictions on certain general bond obligations. We're also amending the capitalization rate for farmland. We're raising that from 8 to 9%. We're adjusting the MLGQ, providing the percentage cap that you determine the maximum levy growth. We're putting that at 4% for 26. On the annual levy growth comprises of any growth in the political subdivision's assessed value in previous years to the political subdivision's actual property tax value shall not exceed the property tax levy in its last preceding annual budget, unless the fiscal body adopts a tax rate or tax levy increase by an ordinance. We are phasing out business personal property, and well, not complete phase out. We're removing the 30% for all new business personal property purchased after January 1st, 2025. We're increasing the property de minimis exposition from 80,000 to 2 million over the 2 years. The first year it'll go from 80,000 to a million, and it'll go up to 2 million. What that means is it's really a tax cut for small businesses. What it is. Most of the larger companies threshold, but for small businesses, they'll be those are the ones that will qualify for that. On the homestead deduction, we are phasing out the deductions that are currently in place on the homestead and replacing that with a new deduction that will be 2/3 of the assessed valuation for a homestead, and that'll be phased in through 2031. And then on the 2% cap properties, so your rental properties and your ag properties, we're phasing in a new 1/3 deduction. And then we're also changing we're moving some deductions to credits. So we have a new credit of 10% for homesteads, a $150 credit for seniors over 65, a blind or disabled credit of $125, the veteran credit of $150, and the disabled veteran credit of $250. So those have gotten a lot of discussion locally, or not just locally, but just in the media in general. There was some groups came out that's upset that they're losing a $25,000 deduction in place of a $250 credit. It's actually the same thing. The way the credit works is it's taken off the bill at the end. The deduction's off the beginning part of that process. So a $25,000 deduction for property that gets the 1% cap is the same thing as a $250 credit. And then also in Senate Bill 1 is the piece that dissolves Union School Corporation by July 1st of 2027. And just speaking on that for a minute, There's another piece of legislation that was filed this year that had 5 school corporations involved. It would have turned Union schools into a charter school in the same process as Indianapolis. And, there's a few other schools that was included in that process. That's kind of what I guess started the discussion for this year. But as you all know, this has been a discussion for the past 15, 20 years on union schools, on whether, I mean, there's talk about with Southern at one point, there was talk about merging with Monroe Central at one point. So, I mean, there's been discussion for a large number of years on that locally. And then when you are looking at the test scores for the school-wide, the majority of students that live in that district have been pulled out to other districts. You just couldn't continue to ignore the situation. So there's, in my opinion, there was a couple different options that we had in front of us. I mean, one was that charter school bill that I mentioned. I honestly think that was a good policy to turn Union into a charter school. That option, I mean, was out there and it didn't move. Obviously, the virtual school, I think, has caused a lot of the issues. And so cleaning up virtual school and reducing funding, which in the Senate passed version of the budget, they do reduce virtual funding to 70% versus 85%. So it does greatly reduce virtual school funding. But if you just completely remove the virtual school, then they wouldn't be able to financially operate. And then so then you're looking at, okay, what's the best interest of the community and the students that are being served when you look at the performance data and all the other indicators, and that's when the option to dissolve came up. And so then that may get included in Senate Bill 1. And so that's what got put into Senate Bill 1. So the language as it is stated is it will be dissolved by July 1st of 2027. There is language that annexes in that territory. The Randolph County portion with Monroe Central, the Blue River portion with Henry County, or the Blue River portion to Henry County, or the Henry County portion of Blue River Schools, I'm sorry. And then so you know, how's that determination? If you look at the transfer of students, I mean, I could have made just as strong of a case for Southern versus Monroe Central. It'd be beneficial to Southern and Monroe Central. But if you look at the transfer students out, the vast majority in that district have chosen Monroe Central. So that's just what made sense to have them annex in that portion. So that's kind of the gist of it. Scott, anything else to add to those questions? What's up, good questions? Make sure everybody just go over here.
My name is Stephanie Ward. I live in Winchester. I'm a 1989 graduate of Union. My concern here is the lack of transparency. If you were really trying to do what you felt was best for the communities, Why was there no community discussion? Before this went to this, before it was written into anything. My brother's on the county council. He didn't know about it. How do you could not have been going through the proper channels for so few people to have known about this before. Can you explain that to me?
I was more than prepared to explain that, but unfortunately, due to Union School Corporation putting out a statement that they are suing based on that reason, I will not be able to comment to that. But the legal process was followed.
What about Randolph Southern? Wouldn't it have made more sense? What is your plan for Randolph Southern?
This does not include Randolph Southern at all. That does not.
It will. And what about the other bill? What about the one that was pulled that stated that any county with less than 50,000 residents would have one school corporation? What's your plan for that?
That was not mine, and that was not a bill that was incorporated in it. That was never included in the bill. That was a amendment that was offered by another representative I had no clue that amendment was even coming up until it showed up in my committee packet as I was preparing. It was discussed by that member and pulled. There was no discussion. There was no that amendment is not going anywhere. That is not part of the bill. That is not part of this. That is not part of the reason for this.
So if it comes up again, you won't be supporting it.
That amendment was not part of this. That amendment, what it would have done is it would have made it a countywide school corporation. It would not have closed the buildings. That was, again, that was not part of this. That was not, I had not studied that. That is not part of the process. I would have to consider all the information at the time.
This is about transparency. If you're going to represent us, all we're asking is for more transparency.
Hello, my name's Alexander Sulik. A lot of you may know my mother, Dr. Syme, and I realize most of you are here over Union School Corporation, but I'm deeply worried about my mom being deported. I have an article here about a German American who has been living in the United States on a green card for 30 years, and he went home to Luxembourg for a couple of weeks visiting family, and he came back and he was arrested at the border and tortured and they tried to get him to give up his green card. My parents are both Canadian citizens on green cards, and my mom, she's the only one that accepts Medicaid in the whole county. If she gets deported, 10,000 people lose their health care just like that. And, she's been trying to get a young doctor to stay here for years, but it's so hard because there's, Winchester and Randolph County more broadly is a small community. And so you talked about protecting healthcare. Trump's immigration policy is directly harming our healthcare because, I'll describe the phenomena that happens between Canada and America. So America's education costs are so high right now that it's very difficult to get a medical degree. And especially around here, not a lot of people have the money sitting around to put a kid through college for a medical degree. That's, if you're getting a good one, hundreds of thousands of dollars in America. But if you're a Canadian citizen, that cost has dropped to a measly 10 or 20 or 30,000. And what happens is Canadians will get educated in Canada, trained in Canada, and they will immigrate to America like my mom and dad. And they will live their lives in America looking for better opportunities. But Trump's immigration policy puts them on the border. siblings and I got to live in their names. We can go back.
We've lost the feed. Give us a second here. I'm going to see if we can get him back. I don't know what happened. Try to catch Christopher here on Messenger, see if I can get him to see what's going on. Hold on. Maybe I can jump somebody else's. Give me a second here. I think I saw somebody else I know who was streaming it too. Maybe we can jump that one. Let's see here. Oh, she was only on for just a few minutes. No, she's not still live. So hopefully Christopher's popping back on here. Yeah. All that metal and it echoes in there terribly. So trying to see what's going on and try calling him. I'm glad you all are patient and tolerant. It's appreciated. All right, Christopher. Let's see if we can get him to pick up his stinker phone. Bad reception in metal buildings. Let's see if we can get him.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice message.
Straight to voicemail. I'll call you back. I'm not worried about you calling me back. I don't care about you calling me back. Just restart the... Just restart the feed. He said everything is wet. He said he's getting it back. Everything is wet. It's coming back. So hopefully here in another minute, we'll have him back up. JD, the master of avoiding answering questions as per usual and blaming everybody but, you know, them. All right, here he comes back up again. Hopefully.
Students,
And
you
there he
look at
is.
over 60% that pulled their kids from Union to other surrounding schools. It is just really hard. Parents have already decided that.
There hasn't been such, never past 10 years closed that. There for the teachers and paying the teachers that are needed. There's been a lot of fight. This rumors have been going around for years. The teachers got ahead of that. This community will suffer your decisions that you're going to do today is going to affect the future of the township, impact it the way that you. I guess you probably know. There is ways to fix that problem. Closing, fix the problem you talk about. Communication, and stuff. Very, very little communication in the community. I know one person that was called for a meeting about what he thought about Union School. It's going to cause a impact to our economy. So, we thank you for that. We gotta speak with our votes next election.
My name's Scott Fisher, also a county. I'm also a resident of Union Township, a graduate from Union High School. I didn't come here today to speak. I want to touch on several things here. First of all, I'm a little bit concerned that we passed out a bunch of tax breaks and property tax cuts. And now this week, we're going to try to figure out how to deal with the $2.5 billion deficit. It's my understanding, I'm one of the 7 people that's got to keep Randolph County afloat for the next 3 years, 4 years. It's my understanding we're going to lose 3.5% of our budget next year, 4.5% the following year, 8.5% the third year. Away with property tax or personal property in the center, and thank you, you're going to save me quite a bit of money, but guess what? The county's going to have to pay for it, and by cutting the personal property tax, you're really cutting into Randolph County because next year we're slated to start receiving property tax. Windmills and solar panel farms are considered personal property tax. So when you do away with that, you do away with the tax revenue that we're supposed to start receiving from all them windmills and those solar panels. I don't know if you realize that, but we're not going to be receiving property tax for it.
So it's not eliminating it for all property, and so it's the small businesses less than 2 million of purchase price. So the windmills, solar farms, they're going to be above that. They will still be paying property tax, and you're not going to be. It's a decrease to the increase. So the reduction in funding to the local units of government, it is a decrease to the increase. So Randolph County government will actually, they will receive more revenue in their general fund in 26 than they have in 25, and then again in 27. So they are actually, so instead of the government growing at 5 or 6%, government will grow around 2.5 to 3% is the way it's going to work out. So the numbers that are coming from the associated, it's a decrease on what you would have received if nothing would have changed, not compared to your budget year over year. So I do want to point that out.
I've got some numbers in the back here somewhere. I just got to look through here that show what Randolph County has, and if you haven't seen those yet, you will. So whatever your budget was last year for most of the district, there'll be an increase in that. So if you were able to describe your last year's budget, there will be an increase. It won't be as much as the increase that would have kind of had been.
How about the fact that now you've got to deal with a $2.5 billion deficit after that?
Yeah, so the property tax, not a single penny comes to the state, so it's two separate buckets. So what we're doing with property tax doesn't affect the general fund or the state budget at all, so it's two separate buckets.
Well, I think that's what the Senate, I guess, has the advantage. We were able to wait on that last April budget forecast to come in, and we were kind of prepared for that. So a lot of the places that we're going to need to make reductions were somewhat already identified in the process, knowing that we could be there. It was higher than expected. So if those cuts are cuts and not revenue increases, then they will have to get deeper in the areas that we will need to reduce that. But like Kate said, I mean, those are two totally separate things.
Because they've explored other options for their tax revenue from farms, solar farms, and we can't take that future tax revenue away from them.
And that's a fair point. So the amendment as it went through out of the Ways and Means, it would have been an impact, but I did work with the chairman and others on the committee, and then the second reading on House floor, it's still not. County attorney to
We'll move on. I think the people of Union School Corporation in Union Township should actually be commended. I mean, they've always been small. It's no secret. It's no secret. Centrals wanted to absorb them for the last 20 years. The Union School Corp made a decision that they wanted to try to keep their school and running on their own. They hasn't produced.
I'm sorry, folks. Oh, good Lord. I'm so sorry about that one, especially. My face right there to terrify everyone. Yeah, that's terrifying. He is lost again. It's pouring buckets. So he's lost his feed because everything is soaked. So he's working on it. So just be patient. I'm hearing a whole lot of excuses, not a whole lot of answers. And I'm not sure that they actually understand what they've passed or what it's going to do to county governments. But I love his comments about, yeah, it's not going to affect the general fund at the state. Yeah, we know that. You've just made everybody else put into a position where everyone else needs to tighten their belts. I don't know. I know he's working on it, so let's see if we can get him. He is talking to me on this, and he's probably into the building's Wi-Fi, I imagine, but I will mention it. So they are suing, and that means they should answer the questions to citizens about what we are going to be paying for. No, that's his excuse. Why you can't answer questions. There's a lawsuit, so I can't tell you why I didn't talk to you before we screwed you. It's fine. It's fine. I am glad that there are quite a few people there. And that there are a lot of people pushing back against them. I was kind of hoping by now he would have stormed out in a fit of rage. Someone probably needs to mention his mommy, and that'll do it for him. So, yeah, the government caused the problem. The citizens are going to lose on both ends. So, hopefully, we'll have him back here in just a minute. I'm trying to find out what's going on for everyone. So I appreciate you being patient with us. I think they're calling for like 3 inches of rain in the next couple of hours, so it's a wee bit damp. Let's see where we're at. Come on, Christopher. You're gonna respond to me? Here he comes again.
No one is developing the sites or the 50 lots into the township. So we're not bringing in people that earn more money that are able to pay their water and sewer bills efficiently. I can see that the trustee put a sign on the board to help people with that bill. I've already had people from Fiscal reaching out to me because of a Facebook post that I made about the water and sewer bill. So we're already being charged for something we're not with that, so we're already on this end. We don't know where to go from here. So the Union School Corporation is shut down my business will go out this time. Sure. That school corporation actually is more than that township to them. Because 10 years ago I was working in Parkland and had a teacher that was a client of that manager was up there, and they were offered big settlements to retire early. So they lost all of their seasoned teachers. A majority of them because they kept rent was shut down. They have now rebuilt a lot of seasoned teachers. My daughter's first grade teacher, they still do have that she's no longer came back from the nursing school to teach there. Our second grade teacher, Berkeley, has been there her entire career. Still teaches cursive, which a lot of people love. They took my daughter from not going to letters in first grade, and then AG right in third grade. Heather Evelyn, he's a very strong special education team. Took my daughter from not recognizing her for letters in the first grade to above grade level. In third grade, has did it for me because I was like, I know, just by the numbers, I know the classes that I was corrected half of it. Their class did surpass the state standard. Woo! So as someone graduated from Manchester, I think that we always hear like it's strange, it's different. There's so much, there's something so beautiful about that because they take things that don't have a place. And my child has a place. she, well, pretty much everybody, and not all of her kids are in the same situation. I do know that Union Bus, he looked at kids from Muncie, the city of Muncie, and their parents are going to ride a bus for 30 minutes to come to this school, to go to Prescott school. I was complaining to their transportation director because I lived out here on 300 East, 2 miles here, and I was like, it takes me 20 minutes to drive my kid to school. He said, I made a promise to Winchester I would not get to the transport. I said, the Winchester for that promise to me, they're coming right down to Huntsville to Union. They're picking up kids out of your district. We just go that's as far as we come to this long term. So I think that they have been under attack for so many years on so many fronts that they have the open choice. We can't neglect the fact that Randolph County and Union are the only schools in this county that do not have a football team. So a lot of boys that are very athletic, they'll attend something, they're going to transfer around one reasons. When I was a 2007 graduate, one of their school board members was sending his daughter to Winchester for athletics. He shouldn't have been allowed on the school board in my opinion. He was trying to shut their school down and sending his daughter to high school. So I guess like it is very personal for me because I do have a student there. I do have a small business in the township. This is the township, I guess, from the outside looking in that I was really like, why do they keep Winchester? Why do they keep Randolph County at the university? Because like part of my speech, they have been shit on for years. Over and over and over. Just take over their property and they still are more of a small farm community. Out here, I'm farmed by barges. As barges farming around me, they're huge farming organizations. They're going to benefit from this tax raise. Union Township's taxes are going to go up. They're not going to be reduced to help the rest of the counties go down. And Union Township farmers are probably some of your smaller farmers. So you still have the farmers that own thousands. So it is once again like Officer Peter and Robert Ford to the village.
I would like to make a comment real quick on the sewage facility. I mean, that is a discussion that has come up with some of the local elected officials down in that area that I spoke with as part of the reason for the long runway and some members on IEC and others. So we do want to make sure that we find a alternate use for that building. We don't want a building setting.
What happens when you turn it into a senior living facility? Owned by Prescott Farms?
I have no interest in getting into.
You may not be a family house.
Who from your family is getting their taxes?
You said that publicly.
No, I did not.
Yes. Yes. On Facebook.
My name is Macy Adams, and I'm a senior at UNC. You say you want what's best for students. Have you ever talked with one individual student at Union? I have attended since preschool, and I and others are living proof that this school matters, that it works, and that it's changing lives. Union isn't just another school or building. It's a home, my home, our home. A home I have seen so many kids thrive in. A home that truly helps kids. A home that kids come to knowing they've seen, loved, and valued. It is where we find teachers who believe in us, classmates who support us, people who stand up for us, and a community that lifts us up and invites anyone to come. Union has always ensured that students are heard, seen, and supported. Union not only taught me my ABCs, but shaped me into who I am today. I was recently told by a family member, well, at least you'll be out of high school when Senate Bill 1 will take place. so it won't really affect you. But yes, it would. It doesn't matter if I've graduated or not. It will still affect so many of us. I want to send my kids to Union someday because I know they will be loved and pushed to become the best version of themselves, just like I've been. Dissolving Union is not just closing a school, but stealing our community's heartbeat. It would break us. It would silence my fellow students who are finally finding their voice, who purposefully transferred schools when they were from schools they were being bullied at. As for the online school, people also transferred to that, and their parents made the hard decision to take them out of their community, to transfer them to all online because they were not flourishing in that school. You can say it's about test scores all day, but you also have not looked at the growth that some of these kids have had. That's right. It would remove the one place that every kid knows they will be supported, loved, and pushed to succeed. When you look at us, don't just say that we're a number. We are future leaders, educated nurses, educators, engineers, doctors. We are the home of the Union Rockets, and we refuse to be forgotten. Good morning. Thank you for having me today. My name is Ashley Breedlove. I be described as a lot of things. First and foremost, a child of God. But other than that, I am an educator. I am an educational advocate. I'm a licensed Indiana teacher and former administrator in this county. Also, I serve now protecting the educational outcomes of students, community members, families, and schools across the 5-county region. And so today, I think most of us are here for some kind of educational reason to protect education. So when you look at that, there's some concerns outside of just SB 1. Kind of go back to the amendment that was originally proposed when the Union Amendment was proposed with consolidating all schools within a county of less than 50,000 to one district. I understand that was removed. However, if given the opportunity to vote on that or include that, I'd like to know from you two, how would you respond to that?
I voted no at that time.
Well, it wasn't considered or heard when we set aside, so I don't know enough about the amendment that was there to even comment.
I understand that. However, I think that is a really large concern. I'm not from Randolph County. However, 17 years ago, when I became pregnant with my oldest child, this was the county I chose to go to because I found great value in rural education systems, and so that is something that's really important for us to protect. When we look at some of the other bills and how they are impacting our communities, and then the budget bill, we now are looking at a $2 billion shortfall for what was originally from having some obstacles. It are wait list substantially.
the educational outcomes of the children in our community, the children in our local communities. And so just as we move forward in this cycle and in the future, the folks need to put, what was it, 46% of our budget is going to education. However, education is the pillar aspect of our living in our communities. We not continue to invest in our schools, give them the resources that they need to be able to support our children. These social issues that we have that are growing at a social the workforce in general, we are going to continue to see those things damaged. Obviously, farming is important to you, Ms. Prescott. However, farming is not what it used to be. That now requires a higher level of education. That requires our farmers to be able to understand all the hybrid. I'm not a farmer, so I might not use the right language, but all the hybrid plants and tractors that they're using are highly filled with technology. And if we don't have young people that can support, work on those things and operate those things, then even the areas that are near and dear to you are going to suffer substantially. So as we think about education going forward, these cuts are damaging to not only the children that are there now, but also the future workforce and the children that will be coming through. So as we look at protecting our communities, that has to start with protecting education for our K-12 students. So I just really wanted to make sure that that was it.
Anyway, thank you so much for your comments. We do spend a lot of money on education. It's a big percentage of the budget. There's a lot of discussion.
People can hear.
There's a lot of your chest.
We're all here just for the same reason. So let's just let it talk.
There's a lot of discussion around focusing on programs that are a lot of focus on focusing on programs that are working and investing in those programs, trying to direct that money to money that we have to make things run more efficiently, to deliver that in a way. And I think that's the discussion, not just around education, but local government, how we deliver these services and other areas as well. So I really appreciate your comments. And if you've got a card or something, I look forward to maybe.
And honestly, I am all for more efficient systems. But at the end of the, I'm a teacher, right? At the end of the day, none of us like our due processes to be violated, right? And we all want to be involved. And so with that, as you are looking at efficiency and improving educational outcomes, please be mindful of involving the individuals in our rural communities and what that looks like. Because a lot of times those decisions are made based off of how our more urban and largely populated communities are. We don't have after-school programs. Well, we do have one that serves one of our school districts, it's small, but we don't have really essentially out-of-school programs. We don't have high-quality childcare. We don't have a lot of those out-of-school learning opportunities. Therefore, as parents, we rely heavily on our schools to be able to fill in that for us and provide those extension activities, provide meaningful learning opportunities. So when you start looking at efficiency, please consider that those rural communities, their needs and what that looks like is going to be different than our larger communities than like Muncie. So that's just something to think about. We all are here because we care about our children and we care about education. I'm in Ross. I'm a resident in Delaware County. I was born in Murphy, but I raised in Rock District, 18 years of my life. I grew up at Union. I did not get to graduate Union due to personal issues of getting pregnant. But Union would have been my home when I would have graduated. Union was the home for my oldest daughter, Autumn Wright. She graduated the top of her class. She also graduated college before she even graduated high school. My daughter had a college degree, not one, more than one. And you're sitting here downing and saying that her education is piss poor, pardon my language, but it's not. It is thriving. You have 9,000 students that come from other schools because they are not getting their IEP program followed by the teachers and by the school boards. My son is one of them. He went to Northeastern. I had to take him out of there because his behavior just got out of control because I thought it was him. And when we started investigating, no, it was not my son. The problem was the teachers and the school board not following the IEP program that my son is set up with. Union School Corporation turned my son down. In 1 year, my son was straight F. He has never, ever had an A. Grab him over B. That boy is on AB honor roll. And Union School Corporation did that. My youngest stepson has academic honors. He is going to trade school next year. But guess what? Now he can't. Because now he's going to have to take dual craft classes over the summer for the next 2 years to make sure that he gets to graduate under the Union School Corporation. And you're taking that from everybody. You're putting us parents back into putting our children into these big, high, rich ass schools that have the gangs, bullying. That's what we took our children from. And now you're forcing all of us to put them back into that situation. Shame on you. Yeah. Amen. Amen. And I promise you, harder than son of a bitch. And you will get it. You close school, you're gonna close all of it. You guys are trying to put everybody into one school, and it's not gonna work. It's not. You have guns, gangs, shootings, people dying. Because you want to collaborate schools together? Shame on you. You guys are the reason our kids are dying in these schools. You're forcing us to put our kids in situations that we don't want to. Shame on you. You reap what you sow, what goes under the devil's belly will fucking come back. My name is Fiscal. I am a Randolph County resident. I do not live in Randolph. I'm not from the Randolph area. But we stand with our schools. I'm actually a homeschooler, and one of the things that I'm really concerned about with the process that we've done through this is the circumventing of the law and the correct process of closing down the school. If you can just pass a bill and go around the law and how that's done, who's to think that you're not going to do that to trample on my homeschool rights, other people's rights, other religious rights, or other freedoms that we have? That is a huge concern, that you're going to go around the correct channels and methods to do something. Who's to say you're not going to do this?
All I can say is the process was followed legally.
So are you going to ensure that we have our freedoms followed in other areas as well, where you guys decide to take this out? And we're just moving forward.
Again, all I can say
One of the other things that I don't know you guys are looking at, they have all mentioned, bullying is out of control, not just in our local area, in all across the nation. I deal in, I have families that come to me all the time because their kids are being bullied. They're not getting the help from their local schools with that. Union has provided a home for so many children, not just in our local area, but across the state. To be able to have getting rid of Union School, by getting rid of their online schooling, you're taking that option away from them. We're supposed to be in state school choice, but you're eliminating safe education options for youth. We've got more than just how many kids are coming locally there. Union School does so much for these kids. You can't just look at a test score and place a value of a student upon that, or a teacher, or a school district. There's more than just test scores. So many kids can't test well, but they know things. The other problem is that we're pushing standardized testing, and now we're taking our teachers' abilities to actually teach these kids to learn, because we have to just cram in for this little test. I have a student that was valedictorian of one of our local schools in Fiscal, it's left grade here, to do homeschooling, tested in at 6th grade level in my curriculum, because all we're doing is pushing for a test. That is not education. Test scores do not make the value for a school or a student or a teacher. You guys go to teachers and ask them, hey, what do you need to help have success? I don't hear this happening. We don't ask our teachers, how can we make this better? What are the laws and helps that you guys need? Our goal should be on our children. Right? What are our children? And as the student said, you guys are asking the students. You're not going to the actual people that this impacts. You're just making a law or a bill because, hey, we look good. And it's not really doing that. But we need to put our focus on our kids, on their education. Not everybody has the ability to homeschool. Not everybody has the ability to go to a private school or something, but they do have the option to use Union until the 27th school year. You have to take them out of the way. That's fine. My name is Karen. I'm in 2005 Union graduate. I graduated fourth in my class. And I want to Union for being able to give a private education in a public setting. The only school that I know of that every teacher invests in their students personally. Not saying some teachers don't in other districts, but personally, at any point during my education, if I needed to come in early because I needed help, they did it. If I needed to work at lunch, they did it. If I needed to go after school, they did it. No question, because they value the students as much as the students value the school. We were raised that it matters about your education. And you say that the scores are lower, and I guess my question is, where did you get your data? Because if we're passing a bill currently, then shouldn't we be looking at current data, which reflects growth and related scores? What do you think? Okay, and in what year?
Some of it was 24, some of it was 25.
Okay. So from what I have found as just a public person, I don't have access to anything. I'm a nurse, not a teacher. None of that has been reflected in anything I've done. So I respectfully disagree that you do currently. Secondly, I guess my question is, why does the online school not count for anything? They worked hard to establish that online school. They worked hard to find a way to create funding and opportunity opportunities for education for other students. And saying that online school doesn't count into their budget or doesn't matter for them as a whole is like saying, you can go to work and figure your job on your computer. Technology matters, and this is the technological version of being able to go to school in the way that you choose and the manner you choose to be successful. Why do you feel that the online school portion does not accurately reflect the way that Union presented themselves? But you just said a little bit ago that without the online school, they couldn't support themselves financially, but that is part of it. The online school is part of Union, and that's what they've chosen to use.
I said if the online school went away, then people would support themselves financially. So right now, focused on one of the comments that was brought up to me with, well, if the problem is the online school addresses the online school, if the online school goes away, then the home school goes away, it takes a little longer to financially do it. So,
You're supposed to represent us, not fight against us.
Union School has been at Prescott since before I started school there, I started there in first grade, so more than 30 years ago. And some way or another, they have found a way to
We're in a war against our own legislation.
Amen. Amen.
You're not for us.
You're against
We're the big guy. You guys are cowards. Absolute cowards.
Thank you for being here, you guys, and everyone else. My name is Catherine Critch. I don't come to talk about union as it affects other people too. I do come to talk about something that is going to affect each and every one of us probably at some point as we age or we fall short on things. I'm talking about the Medicaid waiver program with Medicaid.
Yes.
We have people at home that we take care of, so they don't have to go in a nursing home. They get to their doctor's appointments when they need to. They get the care, they get the one-on-one care and a facility would do. We are in jeopardy though of losing that. There's a real risk in Medicaid cuts with these cuts who would disproportionately, you know what I'm saying, affect the most vulnerable members of our society, which is our elderly, our disabled, and our children who have mental defects. So as we talk about union losing out too, we also need to talk about the people who are going to be out on the street. And what do we do with them when they make a bill that makes it homelessness illegal? This is a real problem in our medical system. Our medical system is broken at this point. It's a pill. And we got to start getting to some root causes too. But I'm more concerned about the three people that we take care of every day being put on the street, because we can't expect each and every one of us who takes care of these people. Yes, we get a stipend to do this, so we can't work and take care of three people. So I have someone at my house, my husband, who does do that graciously. We need to really fight for this, because what's going to happen to these people when they have nowhere to go? We have no nursing facilities. It's gold out here. JD, I do have a question for you though. I heard that when we closed Union Schools, we are wanting to make that into a nursing home.
so no, there is, again, I've talked to economic development and others to make sure we find a use for that building. I have never said it's going to be a nursing home. That is not what I said. What I said was that there are potential other uses for that building, and I rattled off a list of things. It could be a business like Apex coming in. I did mention a nursing home as a possibility, but I did not say I'm starting a nursing home that's definitely going to be a nursing home. I said you got
keep it a school.
you've got to make sure you find a use for the building. We got a few more minutes. And so that was how the nursing home rumor got started, was that I rattled it off on a list of things that could be potential possibilities. I never said it is for sure going to be a nursing home.
Well, thank you for clarification. So I will say this, if the government and our leaders will roll back the Medicaid instead of doing across the board slashes, or we need to roll it back before Affordable Care Act came in and the COVID, then the most vulnerable people who actually deserve that will continue to have that. What happened was in COVID, nobody did checks and balances. And we spent money that we just printed off our computers at home, apparently, because that's how much I feel we printed that has no value today. So with being said, I just ask that we all support our most vulnerable in the communities. I will say one thing about Union that I do know. I'm in an organization here in Randolph County that deals with children. I have seen 3 or 4 of our children in our program turn their lives around being at Union. So I support that because you don't see that from any of these other schools. It's kind of like they take the kids, no offense to anyone, but they take the misfits. And the misfits can all get along, or they feel special there and they're not being bullied and they're being treated like humans. So what I'm talking about is actual humanity for all of us, because we all do breathe and we all, cuts are coming, people. We got to start standing up and letting our officials know what we think in a diplomatic way. Now, to the billion, the 2.4 billion deficit. This might not go well with some of us because we're raised in a rural community, but not everybody wants to get high on cannabis. Some of us want to fix ourselves and do that. And if you legalize it in this state and where it has, diplomacy and integrity in it, such as our other 4 states, you wouldn't be losing that $2.4 billion to those 4 states. Thank you.
I'm trying to keep it brief. My name is Candace Weaver Estes. I live in farmland. I have no children in school right now. I have 1 grandchild in school. My concern with education is that I want to educate the community. I want educated citizenry so we know how to make informed decisions. I don't think what you're suggesting is providing that. I do have questions. Are private schools required to accept the decision? Are they required to elect school boards? Are they required to meet state standards? I have another question. Do vouchers come out of the fund before the public school get what's left? And do your children attend a public school?
So private schools meet the same state standards, and do the same standardized testing in the school if they are accepting vouchers. So that is one of the keys. The private school does not have to do the state standards and state tests. They're not receiving the voucher. If they're a voucher accepting private school, they do have to meet the same state standards and the same standardized testing requirements. It is parents' choice to decide, so no kid is automatically assigned to district, so they accept the parent decide which kid goes, they want to go to a voucher accepting or not. 90% of the dollars follow the student to a voucher accepting private school.
I don't like that term.
No, that's
what does that mean? What child are my dollars following?
They are following the child. So all the money goes into an education pot. 90% of the dollars follow to a voucher accepting student. 100% goes to the traditional public schools. The 85% goes to the virtual under current law, under the budget as it is, and its current wording to be 70% there.
A lot of percentages that don't take the match up.
They all add up, but it's 100% of the fund goes for the dollars that follow the student. They go to the public schools. 90% of those dollars go to the voucher school.
Are those also public schools? Is that what you're saying?
So the charter schools are.
Okay. Now, do they accept the children with disabilities?
Most of them do, and it's up to the school.
It's up to the school.
Union does all the time.
I got that. Do your children attend public school?
That's a decision for my life.
I just don't.
There are schools.
are you in agreement with the bounty program?
I'm in agreement with the school choice. So, yeah.
Obviously.
And just for the record, I think it's my.
Hi, my name is Susan Smith. I'm a behavior analyst at Union School Corporation. I have a couple of questions for you. How did you vote for the research-based pay rate increase for teachers in the state of Indiana? Why did you vote the way you did?
I voted no on that.
Why?
Because it also has mandatory parental leave there as well.
So we can take care of others' kids and not our own?
And those options are already, the way that is being negotiated now, the school corporation is already in a lot of the contracts, but I think that's a decision that needs to be made by the school board and the collective bargaining units. They're negotiating out their salaries with the official. And again, it was parental leave, so it's the same leave for, well, there was it's a little bit of a difference, but it was leave for both the mother and the holidays. Honestly, maybe I'll just a little bit old school traditional, but after 2 days, I actually back out work providing for the family. But that's the main reason.
Okay, thank you for answering that. Also, is this the first time that you've dissolved the school corporation or attempted to dissolve the school corporation?
Yes.
Yes, it has. How much time would you say that you have spent looking at data and doing research in regards to the impact this is going to have on students and staff members? Just give me a number as to how much time you spent on that. Okay, are we talking 2 hours? Are we talking 12 hours? Can you give me a ballpark? A considerable amount of time. The last thing I'd like to talk about is this little section up here. I don't know if you have a copy of this that we brought from the Union School Corporation, but this section up here is really what pertains to me and it's kind of where I fall into this program. When I joined, you do or you don't? Okay. I'm talking about this section up here. So when you look at Union School Corporation, you look at the amount of students who fall under an IEP or a 504 plan. If you're not aware, how does that compare to other schools in the county? How do those numbers compare? It's in the top right corner, yellow boxes, it's students with accommodations.
I would have to.
So there needs to be more research done. Yeah, I would venture to say, because I have done some research, those numbers are substantially higher than any of the other county schools. And the reason for that is Union has 70 students. And when you look at the growth from those number of students that make up far more than the majority of our students, you'll see that the growth is like comparing apples to oranges, because the growth for a school corporation who has substantially less with IEPs and 504 plans is not correctly compared to that data that's there. How much research have you done comparing those two things? None. You haven't done any. And then the last question I have is, how much research and how much time have you spent actually looking at the impact, not just financially, educationally, and emotionally, that this is going to have on the 85 staff members of the Union School Corporation, the 300 students, the students who come in from other levels? When I did my research, I'm data-driven, I'm a behavior analyst, and I have to have research and data to support any decision that I make when working with the students. You should afford that opportunity to our students as well. When you look at this, the average student who has an IEP or a 504 plan who is forced to change school, and I say forced, they're not making this choice. It takes them on average 2.5 years to settle in and adjust to a new school change. Have you taken any of that into consideration, or have you looked at any of the data or supporting research for that? Tell me about it. What did you find?
Yeah, I mean, with data trading, I guess the question back is how bad do you let it get before I mean, we're already, I mean, with lowest estimate in the state, how
He
bad?
said we were the lowest. We were not the lowest. And I don't think that you're looking at the growth based on the population.
On proficiency. Is the lowest.
Right, but if you look at the type of students that we welcome into our school versus the ones that you're looking at in other states, as I said earlier.
It's not other states, this is in Indiana.
It's comparing apples to oranges, but it doesn't seem like you've done a lot of research in regards
regards to the impact that that's going to have on these students. Am I wrong?
No, we've been working on this problem in this session since January. It's been a lot of different. This has come up since the bill was filed on the House side. Talking more about rising access to schools, but a lot of discussions around funding. You know, where should we get a lot of people from public schools telling us on the virtual side is how do we continue to fund virtual schools?
The counties have been having virtual schools.
Yes, they are. I guess that answers my question. I again was looking more for those students who have the 504 plans and the IEPs and the impact that it's going to have on these students, and making sure that our focus isn't just financially based, but it's educationally based for these students who are going to suffer and need an additional amount of time to adjust to changing schools and how that's going to impact them.
I agree with you. I agree with you in the short term. There's going to be some, I mean, any kind of change like that. But what we've got to look at is the long term. What's best for these students and their outcome.
You're not looking at that.
Well, these students are continuing to improve on this. And then again, I'm referring to the students that I work with on a daily basis are continuing to improve. So we'll agree to disagree.
We've got a couple things here. Want to take this time. Are there any public officials, anybody from any administration that would like to speak up? If not, we'll take. Give ourselves 10 o'clock. It's 10:30. You work for us, we don't work for you. This is a Farm Bureau event.
Sure, but they still work for the people, though.
If you actually cared, you'd hear our voices.
John Bartlett. I'm from Blackford County. I grew up in Randolph County, up by Albany. I'm a Monroe Central grad. There are a few bills that I'd like to address real quick, but just to address the stuff with Union. My two boys, my oldest boys, are both autistic. They both went through school with IEPs. We had to fight the school system constantly growing up as they grew up to make sure that the IEPs were followed. Neither of them could pass the standardized testing, but they are very successful today. The oldest one is working, he's starting his 10th year working in a factory, very successful at doing that. The second oldest one, who's the more severe autistic kid, has he has a 4-year degree from Ball State now. So we fought, but we had to make them do that, and they could not pass the standardized testing, which brings me to the point that was made earlier, or a couple points that were made earlier, that close to half of the students at Union have IEPs, and that's going to make it much tougher for the IEPs or the kids with the IEPs to pass that testing. And when you have class sizes that are going to average somewhere under 25, a very small number of kids not passing that test is going to greatly affect the percentage of kids who failure rates. So I just want to make that little point. The questions I have for you specifically, and do you want me to just give you all of them, or do you want me to list them one by one? Okay. So first of all, HB 1461 is a road funding bill. And I want to know how you guys felt about the provision that allows every interstate in Indiana to become a toll road. Okay. And then I would also like to know that the best bill I think that has passed through this year is HB 1004, which is the bill that will cause the nonprofit healthcare corporations, the big five that are causing us to have the highest healthcare costs in the country. I commend you guys for that. That's a great bill. There was a loophole, and I just want to know, there was a loophole when it went over to the Senate that would allow the smaller healthcare facilities such as Reed to be bought up by the bigger healthcare corporations. I want to know if you guys got that loophole closed with the amendment. That's probably for you, Scott. You know how that happened.
Yeah, I believe it has. But yeah, 1004 was actually part of a group of a lot of healthcare bills this year. So yeah, that's a good one. But the thing that we were able to do this time around was get the healthcare facilities to the table. And that was really kind of forced through legislation over the last couple sessions, trying to get there. And we got to the end of the session and just weren't able to get that. So they've become more receptive, and actually there was some agreement this time. So I'll check on that for sure and get back to you on the loophole. You may have to give me some information as to what you think the loophole is to take off today.
Okay.
All right.
Yep. And then another bill was HB 1144, which dealt with the courts. And again, I found out about this a couple of days ago, but Blackford Superior Court is a provision in that the Blackford Superior Court, among 7 or 16 other courts, are going to be abolished. However, the process wasn't followed. There was no summer study committee done to show that those courts should be closed. And I want to know, and maybe you don't know why, but I want to know why the process was not followed to eliminate those courts. And then back to 1001, and the commissioner and I've seen a commissioner here, the councilman spoke, the trustee spoke, but so the implications of your revenue forecast are that we're entering into a recession, and that's going to greatly affect some of the stuff from SB1 on the tax side, because what you have done is like the shortfall that they're going to have, because from from what would have been, how did you phrase it for the decrease, the increase is going to be made up in local income tax. Well, property tax is resilient to economic times, but income tax, sales tax are greatly affected by your economic times. So if we're going into a recession, you're going to have problems. Local officials are going to have problems even making that up with the local income tax, because the income tax revenue will be less. So I want to know how are we feeling about that? How do you guys want to address that?
Let me go back and handle the courts. So I'm on judiciary. 2 years ago, we came into session with the judge request, magistrate request, that got through the hearing. At that time, and then leadership's decided that, hey, we're not going to just fill these positions anymore unless we take one away. Unless we take one away. So all the time, so the policy back then was clear. I think if anybody's telling you that it's not now, then they're not paying attention on that part. So as far as how things worked on it, nothing changed from 3 years ago. We talked about this before. If we're going to have a court somewhere, we're going to take one away. And that's done. The courts are evaluated by the state on how many courts are needed in any given location. So what happened this year is there were some courts awarded through summer study last year. Those were then in the judiciary committee, there were some courts and requests added in hopes, I think, that maybe we can see a little bit better revenue forecast coming in, a little bit better on the budget side. So those changes were made according to what we had put out the 2 prior years before. So I know Blackford County was one that's affected, that's close at probably 4 or 5 miles from where I live. But, so yeah, I think that's the reason that it was. Is that what you're looking for?
Well, yeah, so like the things that were brought up to me was that, and you know, I've talked to the judges in Blackford County. I'm friends with them. They were pretty much in agreement that they don't have the caseload to handle both courts, or to serve both courts. But my question is why? They also tell me that the process, that they didn't have the summer study to show that they needed to go down in courts, and that's what I'm wondering why. They say that they weren't in it, so.
Well, they have to petition to be in with something.
Well, then why was the legislation introduced, and why did the legislation go through to eliminate them without going through the statutory process?
I see what you're saying. Okay, because there were courts that were in some study that had a higher need. They were up way close to that 1.5 10 court as far as in their caseload.
Right.
Caseload. And Blackford County was lower in that. Is the reason they were removed. But some other ones, there were several other courts that were affected, including some where they had major requests out through the committee, but they did go through some study process because at the committee level, we decided to let those go ahead and go through, and then at appropriations on our side was where the catch was going to be made on who was going to go, who wasn't.
Okay.
I guess add to this, first I'm going to go back to your first question on the road funding. So the road funding bill, so the governor already has, without this bill, has the authority, has the ability to control on interstates. It does make the process easier. I'll give you that, makes the process easier. But I did vote yes on that bill, and the main reason I voted yes, this bill also restructures the road funding, how it goes back to the local counties, and all the changes that are being made in that bill. I have to go back and look at my notes for all the changes beyond the changes that are being made on that, and the way it affects each of the little counties that I represent. It's going to be an increase in road funding to our local communities by a pretty substantial amount. The bill goes through as it is in the current state. We did vote on it.
Did it eliminate the 35-cent per gallon gas tax?
No. But it will be a benefit to our local counties on road funding piece. On the courts, that went added in the Senate. We haven't voted on that in the House yet. I have talked to one of the two Blackford County judges, the other judges that I represent, as well as Representative Jeter. Yeah, so the process to act towards Scott is right. Process to do that. There really isn't a process to take away towards, but I mean, I get your point from the simple process. I will say that I also met with Chief Justice Rush, and it was part of a study that was done through both courts. Now, I think there are some other things to consider with the courts and how. So one thing that's a little bit different with the court system, they do operate on a circuit where if there is a case in Randolph County, for example, where a judge has to recuse himself while Blackford County judge will come to Randolph or Jay or other, so Wayne County part of that circuit, County part of that circuit. So we're looking at this information. One of the things I'm looking at before we have a vote on this in the House bill, one of the things I'm going to be looking at is what does it look like for each circuit and how that affects by removing what that problem is. So I'm talking to the judge. I have not decided 100%. I am working with the judge, talking to them. Sorry.
There was
202. Yeah, 204. Sorry. Yeah. 204. Sorry. That was the change that was made in the Senate. I'm going to talk with Dr. Barrett on that, and I'll look into that change, make sure that was actually addressed in the Senate. I'm not 100% certain that concurrence or that conference committee is not going to back up the House side yet. So we'll be having that discussion this week. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
So good morning. I'm Allison Syme. I'm one of 4 doctors in Randolph County, primary care doctors in Randolph County, one of whom is partly retired and 2 of whom are Canadian. I'm still Canadian. And I'm the mother that my son spoke about earlier. And he's feeling protective and worried about me because many of you know me, know I have a big mouth. So
That's why we love you.
this is how democracy happens, and I think it's great. And I know it's hard on our elected representatives, but this is how democracy happens. My comment is tangential to state. I am begging our state leadership to take a look at the federal law that just passed, the SAVE Act, which is an act of electorate disenfranchisement. I don't know if you know, it was touted as a way of preventing non-citizens from voting. I am a non-citizen. I can't vote, have never voted. If I tried, people who know me and respect me would turn me away. I'm not allowed to vote. There's already laws that prevent legal or non-citizen legal people like myself from voting. This bill goes much further. This bill says that you have to prove citizenship when you register to vote and when you vote. So that means my daughter, who's 18, who got her 18-year-old car license, who was automatically registered to vote when she went in, will no longer in future be registered to vote because you don't need to be a citizen to get a driver's license. It means that you, if you are a married woman and your last name is different than what is on your birth certificate, you are no longer eligible to vote because you cannot prove that what your birth certificate says is actually you. This is a very terrible law, and it will affect many, many people. And it will disproportionately affect women, and it will disproportionately affect poor people, because if you get a passport, you can prove that you're a citizen. Passports cost money. So this is a terrible law, and I would really like the state to address the massive voter disenfranchisement that it will do to both women and young people and poor people. You don't have to answer it now unless you have one.
Well, I was going to ask you a question on it. Are you saying this is a new change in the federal SAVE Act?
No, it's the current SAVE Act.
Well, I can give you a little bit of a story. When we moved back here from Georgia, my wife was affected by this. It's been several years ago. It was after Tennessee 2006. So when we moved back, yeah, she went in the license branch to renew her license from Georgia to Indiana. She was from Indiana. She was born in Indiana, but I guess she was supposed to know who she was going to marry when she was born, and that was supposed to be. So I understand she had to actually get an attorney who could change her name, printed it in paper a couple of times. It's quite a process to get through.
And this will affect, it could affect every married woman with a different last name. It's terrible.
I will tell her that you got up and talked about this today, and she'll say,
and I want my state to do something about it, please.
Thank you.
Probably a note to end on. We'll be here for another 15 minutes. If you want to hang out. In the meantime, Scott and JD, they're going to get their things. You can talk to them. We just ask you to. Thanks for coming. If you guys ever want updates on policy, like I said at the beginning of the meeting, we do this Thursday, Saturday, only out from your office, as long as they're in session. So. We can go. I don't want to
Chris. How's it going? You yes, nice to meet you.
Thanks for doing this.
Don't leave just yet, Christopher. I fully expect JD to bolt out of there to
Oh yeah, I'm following now.
yeah, can you pan the crowd? See how many people over there.
Can you take It was. Hold on, you probably can't hear me. It was packed. It was probably one of the. Will not be live tonight. I have a static video that I hope will be able to have better sound. I don't know. Their equipment got wet. Our equipment got wet. We had a hard time getting everything on. I mean, I was waiting out there for it to stop raining, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And so, thank everybody for watching this. Oh no, there's over 100 people. 150, maybe 200. So live all this, and that'll be tomorrow PM. So I'm gonna camera ready. So I'll see you guys in a bit.